instead. That's nice to see. So even though we haven't seen North Georgia really be able to march forward with a lot of convincing attacks, at least the backline up until now has been secure. Can't get the read on the bounce, and that's finally our first goal. 10 seconds to go for Kennesaw trying to close this one out.
Yeah, still with the pressure here from Kennesaw. Now only our second demo. This one from downtown, and that's going to be an own goal here at 3 seconds. We spoke a little too soon here, Danger Talk. Slavip, left side, little tap, not really taking away possession. Now definitely does. Going up, the double tap. Huge.
Hello everybody and welcome back to some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate here. We are going to be jumping into the ECC Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It is going to be Stack St. Thomas Aquinas College versus Utica. So Soy, how are you doing? I'm Septulence, that's Soy. Soy, how are you feeling today, brother, before we jump into this singles best of 5?
I'm doing good. Another day of SSBU action. Can't wait to get it underway. Some singles action, so a little different than that crew battle format, but still a best of 5. So a little bit of time for these players to adapt to a longer set, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is really interesting because, as you mentioned, it is a little bit longer of a set, but it is also, you know, solos, right? So losing a single stock isn't nearly as important as it may be in a traditional crew battle setting, which means these guys may play a little more aggressive or maybe a little more defensive, depending on how they want to make this happen. And the players we're seeing today is Neo Joe, certified, very talented Pokemon trainer player from St. Thomas Aquinas College, versus Hyper, who we believe is going to play Donkey Kong today from Utica, but has also played Banjo before, so we don't know how deep those pockets really run.
Yeah. Like we're off the start here. Difficult for him at first here, especially with Squirtle coming out early. Those low percent combos are just very easy to rack up on a big body like Hyper. And Neo Joe is one of the more tested veterans in the scene, coming from St. Thomas Aquinas. You know, one of the more experienced players on that squad, and you know, already getting a decent amount of damage online. Now the curiosity here is, when do they switch to Ivysaur? And well, the answer is right away here at 108. They are out right now, looking to apply some more pressure here, but Hyper trying to get aggressive with this rage.
Yeah, and it's funny because we see Neo Joe and Pokemon trainers in particular tend to swap off of Squirtle when they hit 75% or when their opponent hits 90. They go to that Ivysaur, they try to lock in those combos, and they try to find those eliminations early. The stock has been taken offline, and Utica's Hyper loses that first stock out the gate. However, on Squirtle, you've got to swap off. You've passed that 75% threshold, and now Neo Joe is going to be going in quick here. So I'm a huge fan of Pokemon Trainer. We all know this, but Neo Joe in particular is possibly the best versed Pokemon Trainer at all 3 Pokemon. I do not think there is a weak spot for Neo Joe, and that is incredibly rare to see.
Yeah, very well-rounded, right? No, not necessarily super proficient at, or at least, you know, not excelling or depending, I should say, on one character in this kit. The Charizard is out now, and this is the first real Charizard action we've seen on this stock, and rightfully so at 105. But this is also Hyper's window back into the game, and they're just going to raw upbeat on the ground too, carries them all the way to the corner and knocks them off stage. But now they've got to find a way to survive. When Ivysaur and Squirtle are on the stage, the matchup just becomes so much harder, even for Charizard. When Charizard's on the field, Hyper not necessarily going to win the distance battle, and the spike comes off the back of it, and Hyper's down to his last stock.
That was a beautiful spike from that Ivysaur there. A full stock advantage right now for Stack, and Neo Joe is going to be moving forward, looking for a little bit of opportunity off stage. Ivysaur into that blast zone makes a lot of sense. Spot dodge through that game has an insane, or that move has an insane amount of end lag, excuse me, and we see the abuse of it come through. 45 to 45%. Stacks Neo Joe going as far as taking the lead here. An entire percent up as fully lapped Hyper. And this third stock may be on its way out the door.
Another up B.
That's it. Here it is.
Out forward air, and that will clean it up. Neo Joe commanding opening game 1 victory. A 2-stock at that. And honestly, they got everything they wanted in advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that was a quick one. So I'm not even sure how many minutes passed in that time, but I mean, my hat off to Neo Joe. We know that he's very talented coming into this. That's not going to be changing. Stack is one of the, I would argue, most consistent teams that we see very often, and I think just moving into the future of this, playing against the side of Neo Joe is difficult for almost any opponent that's going to run into them. So unfortunately, a heavy, very comboable character like Donkey Kong is really going to struggle in this circumstance.
Yeah, there are ways to work around it, but Hyper just never got their feet on the ground in this series, I feel like. I mean, part of it was the Ivysaur, the juggles on... you talked about how well-rounded Neo Joe is, and you saw it in all 3 stocks, in all 3 phases. The Squirtle got the low percent combos, immediately put Donkey Kong up to the 70s and 80s in percent. Then came the Ivysaur. Even at low percents, they were able to get juggles. DK can't really land all that well. The up airs just cover so much space, and Ivysaur's got just enough movement and coverage to make sure that Donkey Kong has nowhere to go. And then the Charizard, with the off-stage gameplay, able to go out, secure those edge guards because Donkey Kong's recovery not that solid, not a whole lot of distance to it, very easy to read. And so Neo Joe just played very bread and butter and got the job done in all 3 phases. Hyper's going to have to really change things up, but they may not have the time to. They barely escaped that jab lock.
This stage choice here is really fascinating to me, Swim, because I feel like a big issue for Hyper last stage was that they couldn't get their feet on the ground. You said it before stage bans even came through, and it feels like the second that Neo Joe picks up some kind of combo here, picks up some kind of opening, that Hyper is probably going to get, blasted right into that blast zone. One way or another, I'm looking for an opportunity if there's an opening, but I have to say, Hyper's doing a really good job commanding that center stage. However, it's just not enough so far at 156%.
Low recovery here. They're able to go high around the Charizard. I think part of the reason you pick this stage is to just force more interactions, because Donkey Kong, he hits like a truck, and Ivysaur even will die relatively early, so just trying to get a little bit more damage online. And we've seen Hyper want these early kills, and they'll find one here. A little bit of a lackadaisical air dodge back towards the stage, and Hyper able to call it out, down air onto stage, followed up by the up air, and Neo Joe able to tie things back up.
Pressure comes out, Neo Joe gets the tie-up, and now the Charizard is here, the heaviest hitter into Donkey Kong, who's notorious for being one of their own. Squirtle, so much harder to hit, but the down air breaks the combo for a moment. The jab comes through, 59-27 off to the left side of stage. Neo Joe coming through, looks for that down air, looks for a forward tilt, can't find any value. A down air once again picks up value center stage. And nearly 100% technical combo here, Soy. Neo Joe finally gets knocked out of it, has to swap to the Ivysaur, looking for the kill confirm. Might have just found it.
The up B nearly did the trick. Ooh. Early up B here. That's a good amount of damage landed. And
I like the change up.
In this type of format, when you're going up against Squirtle this early on, you almost have to play Donkey Kong like a sortie. Just play the distance game to try and poke them out. They will die to that up air off of Ivysaur, but you do have to really utilize the spacing and those big moves. That's the way Hyper likes to play, but you can also catch some of these early stocks. The up B, again, grounded, able to carry them to the corner and knocks them off stage, and just like that, it's a tie game.
Tied game once again, Hyper keeping it close. I think a lot of us expected this to be a pretty dominant series in favor of Neo Joe, but Hyper, a lesser-known player and a lesser-known character, coming out here performing pretty well in this second game, using a lot of what they've learned in terms of utility, looking for the performance overall, and with that neutral beat charge, might be able to land it on Charizard if they get back onto the stage, which this neutral B is not going to allow. You fall right into it. The up smash comes through. I'm amazed that doesn't find the stock, but the up air certainly will. And while things get close, no cigar there for Utica. Stack going to go up 2-0 in this first of 3 series.
Yeah, just a little bit of panic there, I think, cost Hyper that game. I mean, it's even right off the bat, but he gets knocked off stage. That Flame Breath does a lot of damage. Think of it like Bowser's, right? Pretty similar overall. Does a decent amount of percentage. And I think he just gets caught thinking, I have to recover here some way, somehow. And he up B's way too early. That sets him up for the up smash, which puts him at 130. And then again, similar to game number 1, where does Donkey Kong have to go to land? Charizard's got all those jumps. He's got the big tail. That up air hitbox is still pretty good. And that's what ends up sealing away game number 2. So those defensive scramble moments, they're hard as DK, but you have to execute on them because otherwise you don't get a chance to survive and use that rage like he was able to do early on in that game.
Yeah, and I'm actually really curious if the intent was to recover so early and to stall it out, or if Hyper genuinely ran into the hitbox of that neutral B, which then forced them to change the trajectory of that ups recovery that maybe just kind of lined them up for that up special from Stack's Neo Joe. However, we're not getting a lot of special moves here. It's just a spam out from Neo Joe, 60% on board, and a lot of patience from them. They want Hyper to overextend. They want Hyper to push into them because they know that that causes a little bit of an easier opening to find combos onto this DK.
Man, Hyper is just out for blood. He's going for these grounded up Bs at 50-ish% on, or at his own 50-ish%, and Neo Joe's only at 49. That's not going to kill, but he just wants to get this character off stage because he knows he can get some edge guards as Donkey Kong, but it's easier said than done. And the control on the ground from Neo Joe, there is just nowhere safe for Hyper to run to.
I hate online Ivysaur, and I love Pokemon Trainer. It is such a hard character to play against. The down air, the up air, so many of these abilities come out so quickly that you can rarely adapt to them and react in time. And I feel like Neo Joe definitely has a great utilization of those. And I think that's what makes Neo Joe such a scary player, Soy, is no move from Joe feels accidental, right? It feels like each move and input is surgical, methodical precision. They're not maybe looking to hit, they know they're going to, and that makes it so much harder to play around such certainty.
You can see the logic behind every movement that they do. It's very clean cut, right? Surgical. And that's the way that Neo Joe likes to play right now. And oh my, that Flare Blitz is also going to connect. Hyper tried to get aggressive, tries to find something here, ends up crossing him up, but it's going to be a forward smash instead, and it's a 3-stock in game 3. Neo Joe emphatic in this series.
Was that 90 seconds? Was that 90 seconds?
Honestly, it might have been that, because here's the listen that. All right, so
that was so fast.
It was so fast, and part of the reason is that grounded up B, which we saw time and time again. Rules of cross ups in this game are weird. That shouldn't, in theory, cross up. For example, if you're running at your opponent not doing a move, you can't cross your opponent. But because the hitbox kind of carried him through for whatever reason, he ended up behind Charizard. And Charizard with minimal rage at like, I want to say 60-ish% or so.
Yeah, around 60.
And he hits the Donkey Kong at 100 with forward smash at the ledge near the close side of the stage. And there's no real chance for you to do anything. Like, DI is not really going to help you in that scenario. It was just easy pickings, and you could feel it again, that sense of urgency from Hyper to try and create a play, to try and get something on the board, some momentum back. And again, the surgical down-to-earth game plan that Neo Joe had just ran through this series.
Yeah, and okay, that matchup was exactly 100 seconds, game 3 there was. So just barely over 90, we hit that 100 second, and that was easily the fastest we saw. Game number 2, we had this really fascinating mix-up of things were looking okay. We saw Hyper finding those proper answers, finding those proper responses, but it was game 3 that Joe just outplayed the outplay, fully adapted back to what Hyper was bringing to the table. And I mean, I think something that we didn't really even get time to address is DK, not an easy character to play in this game.
Yeah, no, Donkey Kong is... I feel like Donkey Kong is one of the most fun characters
100%,
in this game.
Absolutely.
But there are just so many matchups where everything just feels like such a hassle. Right? There's only so many options for you to get in with, and there's so many different ways characters can approach you. So you really have to work hard as Donkey Kong to just get wins in a lot of different matchups. And, you know, even things... There are mix-ups to it. But a lot of mix-ups for Donkey Kong are heavily committal. Things like using the side B, which has armor, which is really good. If you're constantly taking hits, you can potentially trade and use that to get in. But if it misses, all of a sudden you're in disadvantage. There's a little bit of lag to that move, and now you're in a really bad spot. Things like that up B are a good grounded option to help get stocks. But if you use them very frequently, a lot of characters, even Squirtle can, almost low profile that move and get around it. You saw at the end there. You can just kind of shield it, and if it's at the ledge, you might end up getting crossed up, and all of a sudden now you're off stage, and Donkey Kong off stage. Donkey Kong's got decent edge guards, and I think that's part of what Hyper wanted to do too. He got hit by the Flare Blitz, moments before that. He just is trying to go off stage, get a neutral air, get a back air, get something, knock them off stage, and that is somewhere where you can find a decent advantage against Pokemon Trainer, because Charizard's up B doesn't have all that much distance to it, and Ivysaur's a tether recovery, so if you interrupt it, you can get that stock, but still, it's easier said than done. You have to really position yourself accordingly, and that timing is really hard to anticipate, especially when you have to deal with so much. Ivysaur's often throwing out a Razor Leaf. You have to worry about the Flare Blitz, just randomly coming through at times. So there was just a lot for Hyper to worry about, and Neo Joe could just kind of execute on their just general knowledge and roll from there.
Yeah, Donkey Kong, one of those characters in the game that has to be up close to do anything, and Pokemon Trainer very much not that at all. So it was a tough matchup from the beginning, and Stack will walk away with a very dominant 3-0 victory. And congratulations to St. Thomas Aquinas College and Utica. Looking good. There's a lot to work on, but there's a lot of foundation that is already there, and I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table next time we see them. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to come to a close. We've got Rocket League, ECAC Rocket League at 7, ECAC Overwatch at 8. So don't go anywhere, folks. Plenty of esports left for you today here at Esports U.